There have been countless plot holes in The Rookie. Some of them are not so bad and can be overlooked, while others are so obvious that it sucks you out of the immersion. And today, we're going to go over as many plot holes in The Rookie as I could think of, while also trying to figure out what the show can do to fix them. Let's start off with one of the biggest ones I've noticed. Remember how Lucy wanted to go into undercover work, as well as how Nyla previously was in undercover work? If this is the case, how in the world are both of them able to participate in the documentary episodes? Not only are their faces broadcasted to the public, but their names are also broadcasted too. Some of the most notorious villains of the show are extremely intelligent, and they would know where to look to find these people's information. So in a more realistic scenario, the release of these documentaries would have been extremely dangerous to anyone wanting to go undercover. This is actually one of the plot holes in the show that you honestly can't fix, other than Lucy and Nyla not being in any of the documentaries. And it's clear that the show isn't going to do that. Next up, let's talk about how the season 1 rookies, Nolan, Lucy, and Jackson, were held to a much higher standard than rookies such as Aaron, Selena, and Miles. If the later rookies were held to the same standard as the original 3, all 3 of them would have been fired within their first week. But I also understand why they changed this, as it would have forced these characters to have similar personalities as the original rookies, and that's no fun. However, a good solution to this is to have these characters get super close to being fired before redeeming themselves in some way. Like when Selena did the aura thing on the car, it shouldn't have just gone away eventually just because she ended up being correct. She should have had to prove herself to stay on the job and to show that she learned her lesson. Another plot hole that really irks me personally is how these beat cops seemingly are able to do whatever they want. Lucy just decided one day that she wanted to go undercover. The entire crew flew to Guatemala to save Lopez like they're part of an international operations team. And the LAPD performs SWAT-level raids. None of this makes any sense when you compare it to real life, because beat cops wouldn't be fulfilling any of these roles. But I get it, you gotta make the show interesting and it can't just be patrol all the time. But the solution to this is to show the process of each of these beat cops heading into each of these fields. They kind of do this with Lucy, but it's so fast-tracked that there's no way to keep up. I can't talk about major plot holes without mentioning the abhorrent consistency of the timeline. They didn't even try with this. The first 3 seasons span 13 months. Then season 4 is 18 months. Then from there, season 5 doesn't have any sort of specific time frame, but in season 6, it's supposedly 2024, and in season 7, it is 2025. Now, what's the big deal with this? It couldn't have caused that much of a problem. Wrong. We're gonna look at the case of Selena Juarez and her training period. So if seasons 1, 2, and 3 take place between 2018 and 2019, and then season 4 is 2019 to maybe early 2021, that means season 5 started somewhere in the middle of 2021. This means that Selena is a rookie for 3 years by the time season 6 ends, and then she goes into 2025 still as a rookie. When you put it into perspective, the timeline is too hard to ignore. And how do you even fix it other than just making every season 1 year going forward? They've done it the last 2 seasons, so let's just hope they keep it that way. Here's one that you need to pay attention to in order to really understand, since it isn't all that significant. Remember how Lucy constantly mentions that she saved Tim on the first day of the job?
7 out of 19. Up or down?
Well, she didn't. She actually saved his life on the second day of the job. The shootout that happened in the pilot did not happen on her first day. That was the Tim test with the shop, the foreign guys, and all of that jazz. So why do they keep saying it was the first day? My guess is it's just to make things simpler, since it's easier to remember the pilot as the first day rather than the first few days. But it's still annoying. Remember how we were talking about beat cop responsibilities being unrealistic? Let's head back to something adjacent to that. How many serial killers and high-level cartel leaders are they going to encounter? How many of them are they going to have personal beef with? Oscar Hutchinson, Liam Glasser, Elijah Stone, Monica Stevens, Rosalind Dyer, and so many more. I get that Los Angeles is a massive place, but they are not meeting this many of them. Honestly, the show does too many of them. I'm looking at you, Monica. I hope you die super quickly into season 8. So the solution to this is to just slow down how many of them they encounter. It wouldn't even change that much, as I'm sure that Los Angeles still has a lot of murder. So instead of having serial killers, have a bunch of isolated murderers instead, and it would have a very similar flow. Next up, we're going to talk about Tim Bradford and Plainclothes Day. In that episode where Lucy has hers, Tim mentions to her that he personally has washed out 11 rookies specifically on Plainclothes Day. But how in the world could he have done that? He's not 60 years old, and he hasn't been a TO for 30 years or something like that. So either he has had no successful rookies make it past their Plainclothes Day, which says something about him, or he's exaggerating the number in order to scare her. Well, we find out that it's not the latter later in the episode, as he tells Gray that she's going to be the 12th rookie to wash out on Plainclothes Day, and there would be no reason to mention the hyperbole if it wasn't actually true. I really would love to know what the reason for this is, and the only way to fix it is to clarify what his intention with this number actually is. Here's an interesting one. Remember how in season 3, Nolan went to college? Yeah, me neither, because they dropped it so quickly afterwards. They never explain if he passed or failed. And outside of season 3, there is zero mention of it. There was a 3-month time jump between season 4, episodes 1 and 2, but even after that, there was no mention of college at all. Honestly, it just comes down to this being a part of the show that the showrunners wanted people to forget, since it came from the forever infamous season 3. So early on into the show, Jackson was given so much crap for having public appearances with Sterling while they were dating. Like literally to the point where Lopez was thinking of washing him out. But then later on, they expected to do a whole bunch of posting on social media in order to promote the LAPD. Like, how does this make any sense at all? Not only that, but then Aaron Thorson, a super famous TikTok star that was in a reality show, is on the LAPD, and it seems like he's only noticed a couple of times. Meanwhile, Jackson, who has had 1 or 2 red carpet appearances, has fangirls coming up to him while he's on patrol. They should have just taken the fangirl and Lopez part out entirely, because if they're going to give Aaron so much spotlight without any fangirls of his own, it makes no sense for Jackson to have any either. Here's another one that didn't make any sense to me. Why was Talia so worried that she didn't put down her criminal brother on her paperwork when getting hired? They mention her not being hired if she did. Yet multiple other people in the LAPD have relatives who are criminals as well and join the LAPD just fine. Lopez has brothers that have priors, and this didn't stop her. Even Nolan had criminal family members as well. Granted, he didn't know about Pete at the time, so he wasn't written down, but his mother was a known criminal and he still made it, despite his age. Next up, I want to talk about something that bothers me more than it should. Percy West, Jackson's father and the person who runs internal affairs, just kind of disappears after Jackson's departure from the show. There is no mention anywhere in the show about why he stopped showing up, and then seemingly at random, he can just show up again. Just because Jackson isn't in the show anymore doesn't mean Percy can't be either. There was no closure or resolution to why he left before he randomly showed up again, and that infuriates me. The show needs to communicate stuff like this way better. In season 1, there was a lot of emphasis on everyone making sure that their shop was secured. It was mentioned multiple times throughout the season, and the rookies even have gotten chewed out for not doing so. But from season 2 onwards, there's just no mention of it, and it seems like they just dropped the rule. It's crazy how in later seasons of the show, they'll just leave the doors and windows wide open sometimes. They even show multiple points in the show later on of shops being stolen, like how Smitty's shop was stolen by a random guy in one episode, and then Mickey and the Hammer stole Selena and Nolan's shop in season 7, episode 7, The Mickey. Why even make this such a big deal in the first season if you're gonna drop it out of nowhere without any word of it whatsoever? Now I want to talk about the inconsistency of the character's ability to use a gun. Not just the LAPD, but also the people the LAPD are shooting at as well. How is someone like Tim Bradford, with all of these years of experience with handling a gun, not able to land a single shot for minutes at a time, especially when it counts the most? But then all of a sudden, he gets the ability of a seasoned sniper and lands 1 or more shots on a suspect perfectly. Like I said, everyone has this issue. It doesn't matter who. This isn't even adding the fact that seemingly every criminal in Los Angeles has a fully automatic weapon for some reason. That is also highly unrealistic and a big hole in my mind. Back to another timeline related plot hole. Yippee! Let's talk about John Nolan's age. It jumps around a lot, and it doesn't correlate with anyone around him, even his son. The show mentions multiple times that John had Henry when he was 20 years old, but then they again say multiple times that Henry is 20 in the beginning of the show. But John is supposed to be 45 or 46 in these episodes. What's even crazier is Henry sometimes actually jumps back in age. During the first season, they mention he's 20 at first, then they say he's 19 later, then he gets engaged at 20 again. Then he's supposedly 21 near the end of the second season, but only 7 to 8 months have passed between seasons 1 and 2. So then Henry aged like a year and a half at that time, but apparently John is supposed to be 52 now, though they like to mention pretty often that he's in his late 40s. I do not get it anymore. Also, jumping back a bit, we need to talk about a plot hole involving Aaron Thorson and Selena Juarez again. When Aaron was on his first week of the job, Aaron's mistakes were blamed on the academy and they corrected his mistakes. Yet when Nolan was training Selena, everyone blamed Nolan for Selena's bad stop. Yet when Aaron made a handful of mistakes, nobody batted an eye at the person training him. This never made sense to me. Really, the only way to fix this plot hole is to start treating every rookie equally. Miles was treated differently as they put all the blame on him, but he's only a rookie for the LAPD specifically, so that makes sense. Those are 15 plot holes in the rookie and how we can fix some of them. Make sure to hype up this video if you're on mobile to show me some love, and subscribe to see more videos like this one. Thanks for watching.